Welcome to my podcast. My name is Corrinna, and I come to you from the Pacific Northwest, where I live with my husband, 2 horses that I adopted from the Bureau of Land Management Wildhorse Adoption Program, and 2 kitties we adopted from the local animal shelter. Information about these adoption programs will be in the show notes for every episode. The purpose of this podcast is to share real-life stories that hopefully are relatable to other crafters who might be interested in horses. The format of this podcast starts with a walk to the barn to feed the horses, catch up on the week, share my knitting projects, and other interests like bicycling or hiking. I also talk about vegetable gardening and cooking. I hope you bring your favorite beverage and a fun, crafty project to work on. Enjoy! Good morning, friends. Welcome to this episode. I know I missed last week, and the reason for that, there's a couple of reasons for that. One is I lost my mojo, my knitting mojo. So I didn't feel like I had anything to contribute. Mostly I have been ripping out my garments, so I'll share that with you during that part of the episode. And my mom had flown into town, so I was also using that time that I normally podcast to spend with her. I have started knitting again a little bit. I admit that the last few times I have taken public transit to work, I have not felt like knitting. So even on my socks, I have made progress on the 2 pairs of socks that have been my main projects. When I started knitting, I don't know, it's probably been about 15 years now, I'm guessing. I never thought I would be a sock knitter, but I think I am becoming very much a sock knitter. I mean, socks fit, and I wear them pretty much every day. It's been really hot over the last several days, so I haven't worn them as much, except when I retreat to the basement where it's cold. Speaking of the basement, the other big event that happened is that our cats decided they wanted a divorce, and we have had to separate them completely, which changes a lot in our routine, trying to give them each a reasonable amount of time with us, but still them remaining separated has been challenging. We consulted with our veterinarian, who's given us some suggestions on some medication. And hopefully the medication is temporary. We may try an reintroduction this weekend. Hi, boys. Oh, you can't see them because you're looking at me. Hi, boys. Whoops. There they are. Anyway, although it wasn't good when Randy came upstairs from the basement, Harley has been occupying the basement, which he doesn't seem to mind too much. Herbert squawking about the change in routine. But anyway, when Randy came up from the basement from feeding Harley and spending time with Harley this morning, Herbert hissed. So, which, means he's afraid. So, can't really, I don't know. What do you do about a fearful cat? And quite honestly, we really don't know. So, just taking this day by day, and I'll catch you up in the knitting section. Hey friends, welcome to the knitting portion of this episode. As you can see, I don't have any visible knitting on, but I assure you I am wearing socks because it has cooled down enough that I want something on my feet. My hair is wet because I got it out of the shower, I don't know, 45 minutes ago, and it takes a while to dry, even when it's been warm and sunny like it has been. I hope you have something nice to drink. I'm working on my second cup of tea. It's still morning. It's about almost 8 a.m. I have a PT appointment to work on my back that I injured. Well, Odin kind of helped me with that when I was doing some of the PT exercises that I'll go into more depth about. But anyway, part of the exercise is picking up a hind foot to help them balance on the other 3 legs, and it's supposed to help their core. Well, Odin, because he always looks for the easy way out, I mean, who wouldn't? He leaned on me. It's like, hey, why don't you be my 4th leg? So it's, I want to say it's been almost 3 weeks now, and probably made the mistake of going for a bike ride after that. I already talked about that, and I think I invited anyone who also uses Strava to track their activities to follow me. So that's in a couple episodes ago in the show notes, or you can just message me if that's not clear and you are interested. Let's talk about my knitting mojo, which really stinks right now. So let's start with the sock arms, because I know some of you were a fan of the sock arms cardigan that I turned into a pullover. And well, this is a bag. It's well loved, made by my husband Randy with his industrial sewing machine. It's faux leather, which is why it's falling apart. This is a belt that he got from his mom when he was in high school, and then it's lined with this lovely felt. So the pattern comes from this book, Knit Happy with Self-Striping Yarn, and I have knit a couple of these patterns before. I've knit this one twice. One of them I actually gave away recently, and then this one also, which is the Bright Axis. This is something about lights. I can't quite remember what it is. So here is the sad state of my sock arms. So both sleeves are on try-on tubing, and I am just picking the body apart because the yarn ended up being 2 different colors and I didn't alternate properly. What am I going to do about this when I eventually get it all frogged? I am going to alternate. I'm probably going to go back to making it a cardigan. That was my original intent. So that means I am going to be knitting with 1 ball of yarn and then alternating and then purling with the other ball of yarn, which is part of the reason why I have lost my knitting mojo, is because I'm not looking forward to that. I mean, I could totally make this a crew or, a pullover, but I don't know. I think I'm just, for the most part, going to follow the directions, except that I will have the sleeves made, which that's not terrible, is it? The other one I frogged is in this bag that's made by a friend of mine. She's a long time knitter, and she really helped me when I was getting started. And this is the crochet top, the Vernal top, that I had trouble keeping. So you knit basically a front and a back, and I was having trouble keeping track of the rounds. The stitch count. So since this is crochet, it was pretty easy to frog, and I have since, so I pretty much just frogged it all the way back to the cast on, or whatever you call it when you're crocheting. I think it's a chain. This is cotton yarn, and then I put these stitch markers in to help me keep track of the stitch count. So hopefully that will work out much better. And you might ask, why did I lose my knitting mojo, my yarn mojo? I think it was a number of things. let me talk about the socks that I worked on. So I'm getting close to finishing these socks in this bag. This is made by my mom. So it's lined and it's got the lovely ribbon drawstring. So these are the Practically Perfect socks, and here's, you've seen this sock before. This is made out of Kentucky Derby yarn by Wool and Women, and then I used a little contrast for the heel turn and the toe. And I'm using 9-inch circulars. The pattern is by Kay Jones. I am using 1.5 millimeter, I think. Is that right? No, 2.5. 2.25. Shall we just keep guessing? It's a US 1, 2.5 millimeter. So I'm knitting the small size. Excuse me. So here's where I am with this. I just finished the gusset decreases. So yeah, I have this little pop of color, a little technique that I learned. It's part of the cast on I learned at Fiber Fusion Northwest the beginning of June, and I really love the technique because you don't have to measure out when you're doing the long tail cast on. You don't have to measure it out. You just have 2 strands of yarn. One can be a pop of color, or you can use the inside and the outside of your ball of yarn. You can use 2 skeins of yarn, you know, whatever you want to do to cast on, and you just start casting on. So these are Chow mini twists, I think. They are an interchangeable set. Got this cute little stitch marker, beginning of round marker that I got from also the Fiber Fusion. And I finished the gusset decreases, and I'm now just working on the foot. We will see if I have enough yarn. Yarn chicken has been kind of my theme this year. So I have this much yarn, and I probably have another 48 rounds to go. So we'll see. It could be that part of this foot is the purple contrast yarn, which is the colorway Nightshade by Emma's Yarns. So that is that. Now, I think one of the reasons why I lost my knitting mojo is because a couple weeks ago when I took public transit to visit a friend, the bus ride took forever. I mean, I think it took me like close to 3 hours to get home from Seattle, which is ridiculous. And I just did a ton of knitting, and I think I knit most of the leg, and it kind of burned me out. And then I will talk about the other things going on, which just kind of help me lose focus. That's kind of a weird way of saying that. So this project is in an old purse that I don't use not as a purse. And these are 2 at a time socks. This is a pattern by, I think it's Knit Picks, and it's called 2 at Once Toe Up Magic Loop Socks. Could be a free pattern. I am not sure. I have linked it in my project page in the show notes. So if you are interested in this technique, it's been really interesting. So I am just working on the heel flap. I'm working on the heel nonetheless. I'm using 2 balls of yarn. And this is Christmas in July for anyone who celebrates. And the whole purpose of this marker is just to remind me which side is the foot side or the sole side. So it's just been a new technique for me, and I've actually enjoyed it. So starts with the Judy's Magic cast on, and of course I started knitting inside out. And could have I turned it the other way? I think I would have still ended up with this reverse stockinette toe. So no one's going to notice. It's going to be either in my slippers or my shoes, but it's just something I don't do Judy's Magic cast on very often. So, it's just something that experienced toe up knitters probably know how to do. and I don't. So let me talk about what has been going on. So the Knitting Mojo issue. It's been discouraging with the garments that I've had to rip back too. And I think you all know how that feels. And the sock arms cardigan, it's really unpicking. It's not unraveling, it's unpicking it, which is time consuming and kind of boring, I guess. And it's hard to see all your hard work going in the reverse direction. I could start working on the crochet top again, and maybe I'll do that. I probably will finish those socks, the Practically Perfect Socks by Kay Jones. This is one of her summer of stitching patterns. And then I will have to work on the project that's in this bag that's on hold currently. This is the prototype that Randy made me when he was figuring out my other project bag. So this is a pair of socks. This is a Sofia's of Sofia's Tales podcast. Her mystery sock along. So it's a broken rib sock and pretty easy. And this is repurposed yarn from a long pair of colorwork socks that I frogged some time ago. So, and I also keep a napkin. My sister made these for Christmas. I love these. I love the mustaches. And then a spare pair of glasses in there. And it just hangs on my chair here. So those will be the next ones that are the bus and train ride socks. Not next week. I don't have to go to the office next week. I asked for some grace. And my supervisor, who is great, just said, of course, I hate it that you have to ask, because those of you who have been following along, we had a return to office mandate, and it is, even for those of us who were hired as remote employees, there were really no exceptions unless you have a medical exemption. And I am grateful I don't have to have a medical exemption, but it's ridiculous that I have to go travel as far as I do to the office to do the same things that I do at home, which is usually be in meetings on my computer. Even internal meetings are on Teams. So, I mean, occasionally we have in-person meetings, which I'm happy to come down for that. That's perfectly acceptable. Okay, so when am I going to stop ranting and raving about that? I don't know. It's also been hot and sunny, and I think we don't have air conditioning because we live in the Pacific Northwest on the west side of the mountains, and it's really only kind of miserable for 2 or 3 days a year, so hardly worth the investment of getting air conditioning. However, it is hot and miserable for a few days, which also contributes to not really wanting to work with yarn. Cotton yarn might be okay. I do have a dishcloth somewhere that always travels in a bag with me. And I have that cotton Vernal top that I could certainly work on. The other thing is that I mentioned on the walk to the barn is that the cats want a divorce. Both of them want to be only cats. Well, they're brothers. We're committed to keeping them, although Randy was frustrated this morning after Herbert hissed when he came up the stairs. He's like, you guys need to get over this, or one of you has to go. It's like, oh my gosh, which one would we choose? I mean, they're both funny. Herbert's very snuggly. He also doesn't adapt to change very well. Harley is very particular, but he's also very curious and funny and playful, and he can be very snuggly too. The last couple days when it's been hot, I haven't been working up here in my office because it's on the top floor of our house and very hot. It's southeast facing, which makes it even hotter. So I've been retreating to the basement where Harley has set up his cat pad and his cat cave. And, he wants to sit on my lap. So even if I've had meetings and I have a computer in my lap, I also have a cat in my lap. So this isn't easy on any of us, and it's caused a real mental strain on both Randy and me. There's a lot going on with Randy's job. He's worked there for close to 40 years, and things are changing in ways that he hasn't seen before, and that's very concerning. Neither of us are ready to retire yet, and finding a new job after being in somewhere for 40 years is really hard. So that has taken up some mental space. What else is going on? So we've kind of adjusted to the new routine of the cats. It's Herbert goes in with us at night because he's always liked to sleep on the bed with us, and he tends to be more peaceful, less restless than Harley is. And then Harley gets the whole upstairs and downstairs. He gets run of the house at night, and he doesn't seem to mind being alone. Herbert does. He meows when he's by himself, or when we do the switch, the shift, what we call the shift change in the afternoon, when Herbert has to go in the bedroom and he's by himself. I mean, we put him in there with his food, but he's very food oriented, but he's not happy, and he meows at us through the door. But we need to let Harley up, and we need to let Harley up and have time with us. So then Harley comes up in the late afternoon, evening, and then he gets, a few hours with us, and then he gets run out of the house by himself, and he doesn't mind at all. I mean, I think I heard him meowing once earlier in the week at our bedroom door. So I don't know. Like I said, the vet has prescribed a few, like some sort of a kitty Prozac, and even gabapentin. I'm not even sure what that does, but that's supposed to help with reintroduction. So I don't know. We may try that this weekend, the reintroduction, and have to have a plan for that. So right now, their feeding areas are totally separate. They each have their own litter box. So hopefully that reduces competition. But other than that, I hope this isn't what our routine is. This has nothing to do with my knitting mojo, but I had a visit with my mom visited last weekend, and I tried to spend as much time with her. So a lot of it was driving around, so of course I can't knit while I'm driving. So I had to pick her up at the light rail station, and then we went up north to where her cousin lives and spent time with them. And I don't knit when I'm visiting. I know some people do, but I typically don't unless they're people I'm super comfortable with. And these cousins, of course, I've met, but I've probably only seen them like between 5 and 10 times my whole life. And then I took her to her friend's house, her best friend from kindergarten, although I don't think they had kindergarten during Mom's Day, so probably first grade. Anyway, they had their class reunion, and then the friend brought Mom back to our place on Saturday, where Mom spent the night, and then we took her back down to the light rail station on Sunday. So that's what that was all about. Which brings me to Animal Farm. So my intention was to work with Bragi, because Bragi didn't have a lesson last week. I canceled because my mom was in town. My trainer was also at a clinic with her own horse. So that worked out fine. Well, I keep big sheets of cardboard on top of my hay in the barn. And it's kind of in front of Bragi's stall. I mean, you've seen me go in the barn, and there's Bragi's stall on the left and the hay with the cardboard on top to keep the dust and, just to keep it cleaner. Well, I needed to move the cardboard. And Bragi freaked out. I mean, I just moved it. I mean, it was the sound, it was the sight of this he freaked out and ran away. So we had to have a training session about cardboard. It's like, oh, look, cardboard. So all week I have been moving the cardboard. Like every time I walk by, I move the cardboard. And if he doesn't run away, I tell him what a good boy he was. I mean, at first I was like, had to like do a click and treat as if he didn't run away. I mean, for a while, at first, he was running away. So I actually had to close his pen so he couldn't run very far and bring him back in and do it again. And he was really getting used to it. And of course, I was trying to do two things at once, which don't do that. Just do one thing at once. What I did is I was getting ready to work with Odin on his rehab program, which I'll talk more about that in a minute. And I put his big purple balance pad in the round pen and then had to come back in the barn to get something. I'd forgotten something. And then I saw Bragi in his stall. I was like, oh, perfect time to play the cardboard game. Well, Bragi was used to it, and then we hear this ripping sound in the round pen, and Bragi lost it. The ripping sound was Odin destroying the cover on his balance pad. That's why we can't have nice things, Odin. So I kind of had to start over, just bring Bragi back into his stall and not do anything. Just let him know it was safe to be in a stall. Nothing was going to happen. And then I had to go take the duct tape and repair the cover. So no time alone in the round pen with the balance pad. Okay, continuing with Odin. No, I don't think I was quite done with Bragi. So I worked on the cardboard game with Bragi all week, and then yesterday I decided that I wanted to do the practice in the round pen that we had been doing, and we've been doing a Liberty training that has to do with attention and focus, and can you work through what I'm asking. So basically it's at Liberty, and I use a flag for attention, which can be very startling. And the goal is to walk in a circle around me 4 times, both directions, and then ask if he can trot. And trot can be very emotional for him. And so there was a couple times where he ran off and we had to start over and, just like, can you walk 1 circle around me? Can you walk 2 circles? Okay, awesome. So we got to 3 or 4 circles in both directions, and I asked him to trot. And he did really good at that point. So the point is that he lost focus and he ran around like a maniac for a while until I got his attention back and he understood what he needed to do. So super happy with that. Odin, back to, I'm looking at my notes. So we are in week 3 of a stifle and core strengthening. I explained in the last episode, I think, what stifles are. They're in the hind legs. They're above the horse's knee. And I was trying to think of what the equivalent, it's not their hip. It's between their hip and their knee. And if you have dogs and cats have stifles too. And oftentimes dogs, certain breeds have problems with their stifles. Anyway, so I've been on week 3. I've had to start over a couple times because, or at least restart week 3 because you're supposed to do it 6 days a week. And on the days that I go to the office, it's just too long of a day. Those days the horses just get fed and petted and told that they're wonderful horses, and I pick up their manure and then just, and that's all they get that day. So, it's just too hard to do 6 days a week when I have to go to the office at least twice a week. So, I'm going to finish the program. I should finish week 3 this weekend and then start week 4 next weekend and then go on some sort of a less intense. So I'm going to aim for 5 days a week with Odin. My trainer is coming today, and I am going to ask her to help me with a few things that Odin really struggles with. So because of this, I have become a student of equine biomechanics. And there's certain ways that, and just like people, there's certain ways that horses can move that either helps build their strength or it contributes to their arthritis. And Odin typically moves in a way that contributes to his arthritis. So I need to ask my trainer to help her show him what I want him to do, so that neither one of us get frustrated, and when he understands what he needs to do, that's when I quit and move on to the next thing. So that's what we're planning to do today. Also, I signed up for a Jim Masterson, who is he was a high-level groom back in the early 2000s, but he has a bodywork method that's different than equine massage and other types. So I signed up for that. There's an instructor in Canada, just north of the border, that I'm going to go to in October, and I got his book. So I'm going to start studying that. Let me show you the book, because it is right here. So it is called Beyond Horse Massage, and it's Jim Masterson is this fellow right here. I'm also looking at my bookshelf, and I have a book that I referenced in my show notes called Modern Horse Training by Alexandra Kurland, and she is an animal behaviorist focusing on horses and focusing on positive reinforcement. Well, I learned she passed away earlier this week, so that's it's quite a loss for really ethical treatment of animals when they're your pets or your pets. Let's just keep it at that. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about that. So that's what's been going on. That has been contributing to my loss of knitting mojo. There's just been a lot on my mind, and with the cardboard thing with Bragi, I was like, this is not a horse that I personally want to ride. I mean, what if Odin can't be ridden again? I don't know. I just don't know. I mean, I felt like Randy and I were at a crossroads at a number of things. I mean, not against each other, just in our own like parallel lives. There was just I just felt like there was a lot of decisions that were, a lot of changes that were going to need decisions, whether it was with Randy's employment or, which means probably having to, downsize and move. I mean, where this goes. It's like, well, what if this happens? Then we're going to have to do this, and this is going to happen. And it's a chain reaction of things that aren't real, at least not now. I mean, I don't think it's a terrible thing to plan for eventualities, but, but we would be okay. I mean, I think the main thing is, I don't like surprises necessarily. I don't like unexpected things. I like to know what I'm going to do next. I like to have a lot of contingency plans. Can that be crazy making? Yes, of course. So I've just been trying to focus on the present and really focus on, I don't have answers about what Odin's suitability. Odin is my heart horse, though. So even if he needs to be retired, I am going to have a horse that I want to ride. Is that Bragi? Well, not right now. Not if he's afraid of cardboard when it moves. So he just needs to think through things a little bit better, a whole lot better, quite honestly. So, but we're not there yet. So no decisions need to be made, and maybe I can get back to my knitting and have something really to contribute to this channel and those of you who are here for the craftiness. Well, that's where I'm going to leave you. I have a short segment of Bragi enjoying a nice post-workout roll yesterday, so I hope you enjoy that. Take care, everyone, and hopefully I will see you next week. This is Bragi post-work session, post-roll. Hi, buddy. Hi. Two barred owls sharing something.